Hello, and welcome to this video on Dynamics 365 Business Central. In this video, we're going to cover the purchasing module in Business Central. From the home page, I'm going to click on the drop-down for the purchasing menus, and we're going to start by looking at the vendors. When you click on the link from the home page drop-down, you're taken into a list of all the vendors that are set up in the system. From here, I can see some basic information: the vendor number, name, the contact information. If I scroll to the right, I can see the current balances for that vendor rather. The fact box on the right-hand side will show me more information about whichever vendor record I'm focused on at the moment. That includes historical balances, and I can drill back on any of these values and see the transactions that make up those balances. And if I scroll down a little further, I can see my transaction history organized by transaction type. And drilling back on any of these tiles would take me to a list of all the invoices or all the posted receipts, etc. for that particular vendor. Let's drill into the vendor record itself. The vendor record is divided into tabbed sections, so a tab for general, a tab for address, a tab for invoicing. Each of those will then show the relevant information. You may frequently see a show less or show more value for these tab sections. It's simply a way for the user to manage the screen real estate. The invoicing information includes two critical pieces of detail: the posting details. Both the general business posting group and the vendor posting group are defined here, and those posting groups hold the actual GL accounts that will be used when I process a transaction for this vendor. If I scroll down a little further, I get to the payment section. This is where I define how I wish to pay the vendor, whether it's going to be by a bank transfer, by a computer check, by an ACH. I also define the default payment terms that I'm going to use. From the vendor master record, I can create new documents. I click on the new document link here and specify I need to enter in a new purchase invoice. The master information from the card gets copied over onto the new purchase invoice. The red star at vendor invoice number indicates that this is a required field. And then I'm going to click on the General tab and we'll hide that section so we can see a little more of the purchase invoice itself. The meat of the purchase invoice is the lines. And the lines default to an item, but I can change that and say I'm simply going to be booking this as an expense. And now when I enter in that account number, I can simply ask for my expense accounts. I can find advertising expense. I'll tab over to the right a little bit, enter in the quantity that I've purchased, maybe just a single, and it's going to cost me $1,200 for this particular advertising. I can add additional information in, again, copied over from the vendor master record, but if I need to change the payment method for just this one transaction, I could do that. Say maybe instead I want to do it by a check. I could change the payment terms, etc. Now, I have workflow enabled in this demo company, the Acme company. So before I can complete processing this invoice, I'm going to need to request an approval. A notification now gets sent to whichever approver has been nominated for this vendor or for my particular role inside the company. And once that gets approved, we can complete the processing of that invoice and post it and make sure the vendor gets paid. From that vendor card, I again have some other options if I need to work with this. I can pay the vendor directly from here. Clicking on the Pay Vendor link will show me all of the open invoices that are currently in the system. I could specify that I want to pay 1, 2, or all 3 of these invoices, either in sum or in part. I can, of course, also go into the cash management module and create a batch of payments to multiple vendors and process them as a group. I'll go back from the vendor card back to that same list of vendors we were looking at before. We were looking at the purchase invoices. I do, of course, have the complete option of doing a purchase quote or a requisition, as well as issuing purchase orders out to the vendors. The last thing I want to talk about in this video, though, is some basic reporting. And for that, I'm going to use my search function. And I want to look for aged payables. So I have a listing on the current page that would allow me to look at the aged accounts payable for just this one vendor, or I can go to the reports and analysis section and run an aged accounts payable report for all of the vendors inside the system. I'll go ahead and preview that up to the screen so we can take a look at it together. And I'll zoom in on this so we can see a little more of the information. Pretty basic report, but it does have all the information that I need. Vendor, total amounts due, the amounts that are due broken out by periods, including, of course, that critical over 60. I'll close out of that report, return back to the home page, and say thank you very much for watching this video.